conference. We want to thank Vince Crawford, your NPC Georgia chairman, and of course Steve and Rachel Payne for all their dedication to this. This is the 5th year, and Eileen and I were here the first 3, and to see the evolution of what has come about is quite impressive. So this is a transformation. It's a very come up with me. Damien? So this is a transform your body and a train for a show. So I'm assuming that most of you are first timers.
We're gonna grab. I'm gonna grab. We didn't. Thank you all for coming. We didn't know it was gonna be this many people. So we're grabbing some chairs. So if we disrupt you a little bit, we're bringing some more chairs in.
Yeah, I asked the assistant to bring in more chairs because we were told 47 people, but we only had like enough for about 27 people.
Okay. So we're gonna bring in some more chairs.
Okay. You want me to hold up?
No. You can keep going.
Okay.
But I was just letting you know they may disturb you a little bit. They're bringing in chairs.
He's the gentleman I just referred to, Vince Crawford, if you don't know. He's your NPC Georgia chairman. So get to know him if you're going to be competing.
Thank you guys for coming.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, so let's get a profile of what we have in front of us. We've got a lot of classes today and a lot of wisdom with all the Olympia and Arnold judges that are here and promoters and people that are here because of all the like-mindedness of health and fitness. So I guess by show of hands, how many have been to an NPC event? So more than half. I guess we really want to dissect like what's inspired you to be here. Someone maybe at your gym, it's like, hey, I watched you change, your body transform in 12 to 16 weeks. It's quite impressive. You're quite an inspiration. What are you doing? They all say probably that acronym NPC, National Physique Committee, right? So I'm thinking, I'm trying to profile you all at one time. I'm thinking you all have seen some witnessing somebody that has come down that trail and climbed the ladder of competition competitive career. All right. So you're in the right place then. It's a lot to cover. We've outlined it to where body transformation is one thing, and then also training for a show, that's a whole nother. And I can tell you, being in the sport for so long, there's a very small percentage of American society that will ever step on stage. So already the endeavor that you guys are trying to take upon yourself is going to be quite the journey. And the first show is always, it's quite an experience. But it goes by so quickly. So I think what you're going to hear, the common denominator of what you're going to get from all these speakers today is to really slow it down and complete preparation. We think about body transformation and the physical aspect of everything, right? But there's so much more, the whole mental aspect. And then what I'd like to share with you is about balance, and we all have responsibilities in life, as whether it's your job, your family, other hobbies. This can be very consuming. If we were to take a poll, I would say that most of you are probably top A personalities, and you're very impatient, right? So God always talks about us working on the fruit of our spirit. And patience wasn't one I had, especially when I first started with the bodybuilding endeavor. My name is Tim Gardner. I'm based out of Tampa. I've been very fortunate to wear just about every hat there is in the fitness industry. As a competitor, I jumped in 10 straight years of bodybuilding regimen. And that's when it was just bodybuilding. So it took a long time to become a bodybuilder. No matter what your athletic background, genetics plays a big role in it, but you're going to find that that should not be a deal breaker. If you're not genetically gifted, there's ways around it. It's a lot of work. But again, I feel like you're all type A personalities, and you're gonna put in the effort to make that. But it's really cool. You're taking your body as a canvas, and really just sculpting it, you know? So, with the right components. Nowadays, we've got specialists in just about every aspect of preparing for a show. So I don't want to jump too far ahead about the show preparation because we're going to talk about the body transformation. But that's where when we talked about the mental aspect. The mindset is so important because it's so easy to give up on the task, you know, and especially when you don't see immediate results. I played a lot of sports growing up. I can tell you that bodybuilding is the one that took the longest. You know, you get ready for football, you go 2 days, 2 weeks, you're in shape, and then you get your playbook. You know, baseball is doing the grind, the repetition. Wrestling, still, you gotta get in shape. Any sport, you know, you prep for it, but you see not immediate results, but you see quick results. And you know your efforts are being rewarded in that mirror. Every day, but bodybuilding, oh my gosh, you know. It could be an all-day class to talk about the body transformation part. So I guess if we talk about the outline and we talk about just changing your body, to simplify it, we can talk about, you know, when you wake up, preparation. We talk about, if we just talk about the food, it's so easy to prepare days in advance. So in the body transformation, you gotta make some changes. So you assess yourself where you are initially, right? And you start taking pictures, just front, side, and rear. Take these pictures, and you go, okay, these are what I feel like are my best features. These are what I think may not conform to what the criteria are. So then you gotta break down, because when I alluded to when I started, it was just bodybuilding. So you had to be a certain look, aesthetically, you know, tapered waist, the broad shoulders, the sweeping quads and hamstrings, and there had to be muscular development, there had to be conditioning and detail, but that's something you couldn't just purchase overnight. You know, yeah, if you're genetic and you grew fast, that's one thing, but you still had to work on it. And that's where I like to refer to that canvas, right? So nowadays, we've got so many divisions, and we just added one more. There used to be 10 pro divisions. Now we added a new NPC component. It's called Fit and Model. So you first timers, females, that's something you may want to look at, but it's an option. So what Jim Manion has done in Tyler, they brought up all these different divisions, and the criteria is different. So if you reference NPC News Online and say, hey, I want to do men's physique, or I want to do wellness, I want to do women's physique, whatever the criteria is, looking, first of all, study what shapes are winning Olympia for that category. Okay, follow me? So if you want to be a women's bodybuilder, you want to do figure, whatever the case is, classic physique, men's bodybuilding, 212s on the pro level. Look at that and go, okay, does my physique look like these top 5 in each category? And that should take you right to where you want to be. And then from there, then I would say my best advice is look for an expert to help you, guide you along. It's not mandatory that you have a coach, but to have a competition coach in your corner is going to make your first experience a good one. Or even if you don't want to compete, but you want to transform that body, they're going to know the tricks of the trade. A lot of it it's really basic with what you put into your body. So the food, protein builds the muscle, carbohydrates give you the energy. There's simple carbs, there's long chain carbs, complex carbs. And all those are strategically placed in your daily intake. So there's a lot to cover on the body transformation alone, especially segue into stage time. So to outline it, the first step is determine if you're gonna step on stage, what category you are. That's number one. And any shape can be transformed into that, but depending on the criteria, it may take longer. You know? So that's what we want to determine, and get that expert to help you with that. And again, use the reference of who's winning the top 5 for each category. So once you determine that, then you want to get on a balanced eating program. You know, so most of the time, a mesomorphic body is going to hold more body fat as well. So we want to bring down the body fat to unveil exactly what's underneath, to see what we're working with. So the whole outline of the nutrition, that's where a prep coach is going to be able to guide you, all right? Food timing, all that's so important. How the body utilizes the sugars throughout the day needs to coincide with how you're training, what time of day you train. You know, most of us have to have, you know, part of our day is our livelihood, right? So we got to work, and it's not really in the sports realm, so it's afterward. So you want to be strategic how you place your training. So the whole body transformation is the aspects of what you're eating and now how you're training. So there's the aerobic activity. So most of us will need to bring down our weight to unveil what's underneath, right? So then there's the cardio, the aerobic activity. So you got to time that, and there's a lot of strategy in how you time your aerobic activity and then your anaerobic activity, or the activity with the weight resistance. So the weight resistance is going to help you primarily with all that sculpting. If you got to work on getting more of an X-frame, you know, bringing out the shoulders on the delts, or sweeps on the legs. All that weight resistance is going to apply to that. All right, so we've got the food intake, we've got the expenditure and what we do physically in our workouts, and then also what we do for fat burning, so our aerobic activity. So that's a lot to package up. Now, if you get that expert in your corner, they're going to be able to outline everything for you. They'll give you these programs. They'll tell you when you're supposed to eat, when you're supposed to do your workouts. They'll give you a workout to follow. Nowadays, again, to body sculpt, you want to isolate your body parts. And the muscle groups are very synergistic to each other, and sometimes anti-synergistic. So you want to make sure that you give your body, your muscle groups that you're training on a particular day, enough rest. Typically that's 48 to 72 hours to fully recover. So what you don't want to do is do like a push workout. Say Barry's going to do chest on Monday, but he's not going to follow it up on do delts or triceps on Tuesday. You know, he wants to give those body parts time to rest. So again, an expert in your corner is going to be able to outline all that, and they'll determine as they're with you how quickly you guys respond to your workouts, also to the nutrition. What's so cool about these experts is it's not cookie cutter where what works you know, for Eileen may not work for Barry, you know? And so there's an evaluation of the food groups that they give you, and then as you respond, you're their canvas that they're working with, they'll make those adjustments. So those are the things, it is an investment, but to get a coach in your corner, just to body transform or also get on stage is really ideal for your first time. There's gonna be so many things that you've gotta focus on, especially if you're gonna go on into a competition mode, then there's so many unknowns. So the more that you have that support group that can kind of share with you what to expect, that's so important, because it's going to give you a clear mind. But like everybody else, and the best advice I can give you is slow it down. Enjoy every aspect of the contest prep, and don't just put all the emphasis on stage, on the final stage day, because that day is going to go by like a blur for sure. And just really, it's kind of like when I give advice to young parents when they have their first child. I said, don't wish for them to be old enough to communicate with you in words or don't rush any stage, because when you blink, they're gonna be in college already. And then you're gonna say, I wish I would have done that, I wish I would have done that. But don't ever wish for time to go faster. Especially as you get older, time does go like that, you can't control that. But, so yeah, just to outline, the food intake is so important, your expenditure, and then the sculpting and making sure that, you got the right Michelangelo. Or maybe you take on the task yourself, So a lot of notes, mental notes. I used to like to look in the mirror, and then, especially in the posing aspect, I'm getting a little ahead of myself on the show prep part. But I would close my eyes, hit the pose, and then open my eyes. And then that's what the judges would see. And I just practice. Is so much, and then you put rhythm in it. And it's not just about being in the pose, it's all the transition as well. So for all you have aspirations of being on stage, it's all about perception, right? And the judges, it's a subjective sport. So what do you want, what's your main objective when you're in front of those judges? You want to make sure the judges are looking at who? You, right?
Yeah.
Right, and not your competitor. The more they're looking at you, the more chances are, you're the one that's gonna be that center X in the middle of the stage. So that's so important. So how you carry yourself in transition. And I may be speaking in a language you guys aren't relating to, but the call-outs. When you're in front of the judges, there'll be a certain call-out. Say there's 15 in your class, and the head judge might call for 4 or 5 to be in the middle. And then he'll call another class. He or she will call another class, another grouping, until everyone is looked at and compared. It's so important how you hold yourself on the we call them on the sides, the diagonals, or the wings, that you stay presentable. All right? So, fast forwarding to the end result, it's all about how you're being perceived. On the front end of it, it's all about that mental preparation. You got to ask yourself, okay, do I really want to take on this endeavor? Tim has said that it's not like taking 2 weeks or 2 days and get in shape, and then your coach puts you in a position and you're on your way. Bodybuilding, you've got to make progression every day. And it's not about how you're lifting or what you're lifting. It's the whole culmination of everything. Once you wake up, how you take in oxygen and how you look at yourself in the mirror and how you utilize every single minute of the 24 hours. And some of you guys might not think about this, but sleeping and resting is probably the most effective of making the most productive bodybuilder. You're gonna say, but that's idle. That's when your body's recovered. You're tearing, when you work out, the muscles, you're tearing down the muscles in hopes that it's gonna shape the way that you want it to fit that criteria that you're trying to be in. Does that make sense? Okay. So, I've got our pros here. We got Damien and Barry. They're classic physique pros, so thank you guys for assisting. But they're gonna be able to give a little insight of their journeys on how they lined up, first of all, how they chose a sport. Most people that get in bodybuilding, they have experienced another sport or combination of, and they've got that competitive nature. Myself, I played football, baseball, and wrestled, martial arts. In my early 20s, I went to a show. One of my buddies competed in the Florida Championships. And I'd never been to a bodybuilding show, but very competitive in the gym. But back then, guys in their early, teens and 20s, they're just doing bench press and curls, right? And but the effort was there, just being, an athlete and the competition and the camaraderie. Going to that show changed my life. I was I was like a junior executive coming up in the corporate world. And so the gym was my escape to work out, because I had to use my brain all day long, and then continue on and, you know, all the fun stuff as a young man. But I went to this show with my buddy, and I see the amateurs competing, and I'm like, oh man, I could beat those guys, you know, not knowing anything, right? But just being an arrogant young man. But I got to watch Sergio Olive guest pose on stage, and that moment just it was like dancing. It was so poetic, and just his the air about him, his mannerisms, just so special. And I really didn't really put focus on bodybuilding, other than when I started in the gyms. I started lifting for high school football. I was undersized. Went to two-a-days my sophomore year, and all my friends grew like a foot. I'm half Japanese, so I knew I was going to be short. So I said, I got to have an equalizer. So back then, lifting weights for sports was taboo. You just didn't do it. Coaches said, no, you don't need to lift weights. You're going to get, you're going to get slow and all this. I can tell you, working out, not only did it make me a better athlete, because I got to continue playing sports, intramurals and stuff through my 30s. And not only did it make me a better athlete, but it changed my walk in life. And I didn't realize it then, because I just thought I was just kind of cocky and, and being undersized, I felt like I had to be louder and more flamboyant to be noticed. So that was my style. And seeing Sergio and saying, you know what, I might want to try this. And that was the stepping stones of changing everything. And then when I alluded to that, I just did the bench presses and the curls with my buddies in the gym. What did that tell you? I wasn't balanced. I wasn't proportionate. Genetically, I had great legs, just playing ball and stuff, but they still needed development, like the bodybuilding regimen. So applying all that, I said, I'm going to try to step on stage. So I took a whole year. When you talk to experts back then, they said, oh, you got to prep for a year, pick a show, January, put it on your refrigerator, and that's what you're going to do. So I did that. Did my first show at Busch Gardens in Tampa, and if you guys did an earlier class, you hear the instructors talk about being in the best shape of your life, right? So it's all relative. Each person is going to be the best they can be at that show. Well, I definitely was the best shape for myself, and then my cocky mind thought, I'm going to win this easy, and all my friends, you know how it goes in the gym. You're the big fish in, the big fish in the pond, right? So I get there, and there's like 8 guys in my class, and I come in dead last. And if I would have just hung up my trunks on that first time, even though I know, the body transformation is great, but now as Olympia judge, I look at those first pictures like, man, I was missing this, and but your mind plays tricks on you, and it's good to be confident, but also be objective. So looking back, if the competitive side of me says, no, you're not going to get the best of me, I'm coming back. And then, and again, it was just bodybuilding, so you had to complete the whole body. So from my first event, and then I went up to the ranks of the NPC ladder with novice and juniors and all that. So it took a while back then to even place. And so when I got the taste of placing, then I kept putting in the grind. But I guess the lesson of the story is that some things don't come so quickly or overnight, and if you really want it and you set the goal, you just have to keep working on it every year, year in, year out. So from coming in dead last my very first show, over a 10-year period, I committed to 10 straight years of the bodybuilding regimen. Not missing a workout, not missing a meal. In bodybuilding, I didn't even say that bodybuilding, you guys are probably used to eating about 3 meals a day, but bodybuilding can be as much as 8 meals, just smaller meals, especially the protein intake, because your body doesn't assimilate protein as easily as the carbohydrates. So you got to be careful, you know, on how you bring that in and how the body assimilates it. But over that process, I end up making a name for myself to be one of the best bodybuilders out of Florida, and then that allowed me to bring on other capacities. I was one of the first athletes that they asked to be a judge as well, so I get to judge. I was spotted at one of my shows. I won a show in Orlando, and as I was walking out, there's two guys say, "Hey, are you Tim Gardner?" I said, "Of course I'm Tim Gardner." And, I don't really like that guy anymore. I mean, the old Tim Gardner. But I said, "Of course I'm Tim Gardner." He goes, "Well, I'm Doug Bailey of Cassandra Bailey Talent Agency, and this is my head photographer, Carlos Romito. We'd like to see if you're going to still be in town. If you're in town on Monday, you know, come by our office." And all my buddies are waiting on me to go eat, and you know, you guys know the grind where you're just so happy that you want to celebrate that you don't want to be there to be pulled away. So I'm like, my buddies are here, we're going to go eat. But so he gave me his card, you know, and I just thought it was a scam, and it's just, you know, and I was just so excited just to have won and to be with my buddies. But the whole night, where, you know, after we ate dinner and then we went to a few clubs, and every pretty person, guy or girl, I'd walk up and say, "You model, do you act?" And so then if they said yes, I said, "Well, you know, what's the deal?" I was approached tonight, and he says, "Well, if you pay, it's a scam. If you don't, then it's for real, right?" So I stayed in Orlando for the weekend, went to his office about 2 o'clock that afternoon, and he took me right in, and I didn't even sit down, like, "Oh, what's this gonna cost?" And right when I got to cost, I looked at his credenza, and I could tell he was a Christian, a family man. I said, "Oh," and he says, "Tim," he says, "I don't know if you've been told, but we don't make any money unless you make money. We make exactly 20%. But what we saw Saturday night, we want to sponsor you. We'll do full color comp cards. We're going to put you out there. The internet just came out, and so it, you know, it was overwhelming, to say the least. But I was ashamed that I stereotyped him based on what I was told the whole weekend, right? And what I didn't mention when we were outside that Saturday night, he says, "You ever acted or modeled?" And I go, "No, I'm too short." He goes, "On the contrary, Sylvester Stallone is your height." And he said, "Disney would just eat." This is exact words, and many decades ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. And he goes, "Disney would just eat you up." And so I didn't know how to take that, but I realized what he meant was all the Disney properties. You know, they, make a long story short, about 2 weeks later, he assigned me to do my comp card. So they do all these different scenarios, business suit, bathing suit, the full gamut, family look, outgoing look. So we did all that, color, two-sided. 2 weeks later, he calls, "Hey, can you be in Orlando?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "What do I need to wear?" He says, "Just what you wear at the beach." So I said, so I went to Target. I got me a lime green tank top and some floral shorts, and right from Men's Physique. I was way ahead of my time, right? And some flip-flops and my sunglasses out of my car. And that's how I went to my first audition. It was a Grand Floridian hotel. And so I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have anything. I get to like a 14th floor, elevator opens, there's like 75 guys, they're all about 6'2", gorgeous. They've got portfolios in their arms, and like, oh my gosh, I almost turned around, almost like the first day of competition, right? Where coming dead last, I didn't give up. I almost turned around, but something told me, don't give up. But I was so embarrassed standing there, and I was actually in my garb anyway, so I looked like I was a tourist at the hotel. So just all the lingo of, you know, hey, you know, when's your next audition? Where'd you get casted? You know, they're talking, all that stuff. So I was quite intimidated. And I went through the whole screening process. I didn't have a comp card to give them yet because they were still being made. And so they took a little Polaroid, asked me some questions. I did some tasks, acting like I was playing volleyball, going into a counter or a bar to order a drink, and then I had to say who I was representing, my agent, and all that. I said, oh, this was a waste of time. So another 2 weeks goes by. Doug calls me and says, hey, Tim, you remember the Grand Floridian? I go, yes, sir. He goes, you got it. I go, oh, yeah, well, that's awesome, but who else got it? Just you. And so that, when he said Disney would eat you up, every Disney property casted me for whether it's Epcot or Disney. I was the first ambassador for Disney Cruise Lines. And then from there, by putting me on the internet, got me with all these other talent agencies as well. So if I would have stayed closed-minded and said I'm too short, I would have roadblocked this whole, aside from I had a great corporate career, but this was 10 years of acting and modeling just because of what he saw on stage. And he believed in me more than I believed in him. So going back to the body transformation, the whole thing is you have to believe in yourself more than anyone. Whether you get the best coach in the world, you have to believe in yourself and make the proper steps. I made a lot of incorrect steps where I could save time if I would have had an expert. When I was coming up, there weren't coaches. You know, you had to go to the library, read books. I had all the magazines, even before I even thought I was going to be a bodybuilder. I just loved Muscle and Fitness and Flex and Strength and Health, Muscle Mag, all those. And so I feel like I've been talking too much about myself, but I got to say that I never thought that doing something I love would be my livelihood. So I was able to completely retire from the corporate world and create a whole new life. So when I said I wear all these different hats, so I was a competitor. I got to be a judge at a very young age. And then, so you go up the ranks as a state judge, you go national judge, and then the ultimate to become an Olympia judge, and Arnold judge. And so, again, being that bodybuilding competitor coming in dead last at their very first show, who would have thought that journey could be? So no matter if you don't think you're genetically gifted or you don't fit that criteria, what I say is keep forging forward, be resilient, make sure you've tapped out every resource, every bit of effort before you say you're done. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but what a journey. You know, Eileen and I have traveled the world because of bodybuilding, being ambassadors, representing Romanians and the NPC and the IFBB Pro League. And then being a part of it, just watching another capacity I had. I was one of the first coaches of the industry when it wasn't thought of to have a coach. You know, it's an individual sport. You know, what are you going to do? But it was a way to bring that camaraderie and have school sessions like this to really get in your head and say, hey, don't make the mistakes I did early on. Let me help you, guide you. Let me guide you to where your steps are more productive and effective. And so it just kind of organically grew because there wasn't a template of how to be a great coach because there weren't any, you know. And so those are some of my fondest memories. And our group was called Team Body Tech, and the Body Tech Babes when the girl component came on. But thousands and thousands of lives that we intertwine with. And because of it, through the decades of coaching, watching like teammates marry and have children, and so there's Body Tech grandchildren. But there's this whole lineage of because of the common interest and the bond of health and fitness that brought all that together, you know. So I can go on and on about that, but I want these these guys and Eileen to talk about, you know, first of all, why they chose to want to transform their body, and then take those rewards, what they saw, and apply it to a stage, because, and then put in front of just opinions, you know? You gotta be very strong mentally to say, you know, I'm okay if I didn't appeal to them this time, but if you have that, don't give up attitude, you're gonna get in front of that judge again, and the judge is gonna remember you if you made changes, you know? Or if you say you do your first show, and now the judges are very accessible to where you can go after show and say, hey, what did I do wrong? Or I feel like I look like the first place guy. You know, and take that information and apply it effectively to where you go, you know what? I want to show, okay, I do see that my hamstrings were under par compared to the rest of the class, or just to make me proportionate, you know? Or I gotta work on my upper chest, or genetically I'm a little narrow, so I gotta bring in my delts for next year. So whatever you do, and you get in front of that same crew of judges, and they go, man, we saw the changes and we rewarded you, you know, instead of not placing this time in the second, or just, you know, there's a whole process of climbing the rungs of the ladder. Some, I coached Kiana Liu. She did one show and everyone knew she was gonna be a pro. That's not typically the case. My good friend Bob Ciccarello, if you watch Olympia, he's the voice of the Olympia. He competed 20 straight years as an amateur before turning pro. So, you know, thank God he didn't give up, because, you know, he's an iconic figure and all the hats that he wears. But, you know, when you turn pro, that's all in timing, right? And it's about being in the right place at the right time. But if you always have that mental fortitude, you're not going to give up, and you can only control yourself. So always be the best that you can be each time you step on stage.